1 Samuel chapter 9 verse 15 through chapter 10 verse 26. Now the Lord had revealed this to Samuel the day before Saul came. He had told him, "About this time tomorrow I will send to you a man from the land of Benjamin, and you are to anoint him to be leader over my people Israel. He will save my people from the hand of the Philistines, for I am looking out for my people, because their cry for help has come to me." When Samuel saw Saul, the Lord told him, "There, that is the man I was talking about. He will exercise authority over my people." Then Saul approached Samuel in the gateway and said, "Please tell me where the seer's house is." Samuel answered Saul, "I am the seer. Go up to the high place ahead of me, because you and your men are to eat with me today. In the morning I will let you go, and I will tell you everything that is on your heart. As for your donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, do not be concerned about them, because they have been found. For who is it that all Israel desires? Isn't it you and your father's entire house?" Saul answered, "But I am just a Benjaminite from the smallest of the tribes of Israel. And my family is the least important of all the families in the tribe of Benjamin. So why do you speak to me like this?" Samuel took Saul and his servant and brought them into the dining hall. He seated them at the head of those who had been invited. There were about 30 men. Samuel said to the cook, "Bring the portion I gave you, the one I told you to set aside." So the cook picked up the thigh and all the meat that was on it and placed it before Saul. Samuel said, "Look here, this has been reserved for you. Set it before you and eat, because ever since I said, 'I have invited the people,' it has been kept for you for the appointed time." So Saul ate with Samuel that day. When they had come down from the high place and gone into the city, Samuel spoke with Saul on the flat roof of the house. They got up early, about daybreak, and Samuel called to Saul on the housetop, "Get up, so that I may send you on your way." Saul got up, and the two of them, Saul and Samuel, went outside together. As they were going down to the edge of the city, Samuel said to Saul, "Tell the young man to go on ahead of us." So the young man went on ahead. Then Samuel said, "You stay here, so that I can tell you God's message." Then Samuel took a flask of olive oil, poured it on Saul's head, kissed him, and told him this, "Hasn't the Lord anointed you to be ruler over his inheritance? When you leave me today, you will meet 2 men near Rachel's tomb, at Zelzah on the border of Benjamin. They will tell you, 'The donkeys that you have been looking for have been found.' Now your father has stopped worrying about the donkeys and is worried about the 2 of you. He is asking, 'What should I do about my son?' As you go on farther from there, you will come to the oak tree at Tabor. 3 men going up to God's house at Bethel will meet you there. One will be carrying 3 young goats, another will be carrying 3 loaves of bread, and the third will be carrying a container of wine. They will greet you, ask how you are doing, and give you 2 loaves of bread, which you are to accept from their hand. After that, you will come to Gibeah of God, where there is a Philistine garrison. When you come to the city, you will meet a band of prophets coming down from the high place. Musicians with a harp, a hand drum, a flute, and a lyre will be going in front of them, and they will be prophesying. Then the Spirit of the Lord will rush upon you with power, and you will prophesy with them, and you will become a changed man. When you have received these signs, do whatever is appropriate for the occasion, for God is with you. Go down to Gilgal ahead of me. Watch for me. I will come down to you to offer burnt offerings and to sacrifice fellowship offerings. Wait 7 days, until I come to you. Then I will let you know what you are to do." As Saul was turning away from Samuel to leave, God gave him a changed heart, and all those signs were fulfilled that day. When they came to Gibeah, a band of prophets met Saul, and the Spirit of God came upon him with power, and he prophesied among them. When everyone who had known him previously saw that Saul was prophesying along with the prophets, the people were surprised and said to each other, "What has happened to the son of Kish? Is even Saul among the prophets?" Someone from that area responded, "Who is their father?" Therefore it became a saying, "Is even Saul among the prophets?" When Saul had finished prophesying, he arrived at the high place. Saul's uncle asked Saul and his servant, "Where did you go?" Saul said, "To look for the donkeys." But when we realized that we were not succeeding, we went to Samuel. Saul's uncle said, "Please tell me what Samuel said to you." Saul said to his uncle, "He made it clear to us that the donkeys had been found." But Saul did not tell his uncle anything about the matter of the kingship, about which Samuel had also spoken. Samuel called the people together to the Lord at Mizpah. He said to the people of Israel, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought Israel up out of Egypt, and I delivered you from the hand of the Egyptians, and from the hand of all the kingdoms that oppressed you. But today you have rejected your God, the one who saves you out of all your disasters and your distress, and you have said to him, 'You must set a king over us.' Now line up in the presence of the Lord by your tribes and by your thousands." So Samuel brought forward all the tribes of Israel, and the tribe of Benjamin was chosen. Then he brought forward the tribe of Benjamin by its clans, and the clan of the Matrites was chosen. Then Saul the son of Kish was chosen, but when they looked for him, he could not be found. Therefore they asked the Lord again, "Has the man arrived here yet?" The Lord answered, "He has. Look, he is hiding among the baggage." So they ran and brought him from there. When he stood among the people, he was a head taller than any of the people. Samuel said to all the people, "Do you see the one the Lord has chosen? There is no one like him among all the people." All the people shouted, "Long live the king!" Samuel told the people the regulations concerning the kingship, and he wrote them on a scroll, which was placed before the Lord. Then Samuel sent all the people away, each man to his own house. Saul went home to Gibeah, and the army went with him, those men whose hearts God had touched. But certain worthless good-for-nothings said, "How can this man save us?" They despised him and brought him no gift, but Saul said nothing. 1 Samuel chapter 13 verses 5 through 14, and chapter 15 verses 17 through 26. The Philistines assembled their forces to fight against Israel with 3,000 chariots, 6,000 charioteers, and soldiers as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They came up and camped at Michmash, east of Beth-aven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in trouble because their army was under pressure, the people hid themselves in caves, in thickets, among the rocks, in dugouts, and in cisterns. Some of the Hebrews had gone across the Jordan River to the territory of Gad and Gilead, but Saul remained in Gilgal, and all the people who remained with him were shaking with fear. He waited there 7 days, the time specified by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were starting to scatter from Saul. So Saul said, "Bring me the burnt offering and the fellowship offering." He then presented the burnt offering. No sooner had he finished presenting the burnt offering than Samuel arrived. Saul went out to meet him and greet him with a blessing. But Samuel said, "What have you done?" Saul said, "I saw that the people were scattering from me, that you did not come within the set number of days, and that the Philistines had assembled their forces at Michmash. So I said, 'Now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal,' and I have not sought the favor of the Lord. So I forced myself to offer the burnt offering." Samuel said to Saul, "You have acted foolishly. You have not kept the command which the Lord your God gave to you. The Lord would have established your kingship over Israel forever. But now your kingship will not continue. The Lord has sought for himself a man after his own heart, and the Lord has appointed him to be ruler over his people, because you have not obeyed the command the Lord gave you." Samuel said, "Though you were insignificant in your own sight, you were made the head of the tribes of Israel. The Lord anointed you king over Israel. Then the Lord sent you on a mission and said, 'Go and devote the Amalekites, that sinful people, to destruction. Fight against them until they are exterminated.' Why didn't you listen to the voice of the Lord? Why did you swoop down on the plunder and do what was evil in the Lord's sight?" Saul said to Samuel, "But I have obeyed the voice of the Lord and have completed the mission that the Lord gave me. I have captured Agag king of Amalek, and I have completely destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took some of the plunder, sheep, cattle, and the best of what was devoted to destruction, to sacrifice to the Lord your God in Gilgal." Samuel said, "Does the Lord take as much pleasure in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in obedience to the voice of the Lord? Know this. To obey is better than sacrifice, and to pay attention is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is the same as the sin of witchcraft, and arrogance is like having useless idols or consulting household gods. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected you as king. Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed against the command of the Lord, as well as against your words, because I was afraid of the people, so I listened to their voice. But now, please pardon my sin and come back with me again, so that I may worship the Lord. But Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, because you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verses 1 through 13. The Lord said to Samuel, How long will you mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem, for I see a king for myself among his sons. Samuel said, How can I go? If Saul hears about it, he will kill me. The Lord said, Take a heifer with you and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will let you know what you are to do. You are to anoint for me the person that I point out to you. So Samuel did what the Lord had told him to do and went to Bethlehem. Trembling with fear, the elders of the city came to meet him. They said, Do you come in peace? He said, Yes, in peace. I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Consecrate yourselves, and come with me to the sacrifice. He consecrated Jesse and his sons and invited them to the sacrifice. When they had come, he looked at Eliab and said, Certainly this is the Lord's anointed. But the Lord said to Samuel, Do not look at his appearance or at how tall he is, because I have rejected him. For the Lord does not look at things the way man does. For man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Then Jesse called Abinadab and had him pass in front of Samuel. But Samuel said, The Lord has not chosen this one either. Then Jesse had Shammah pass by. But Samuel said, The Lord has not chosen this one either. Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. Samuel said to Jesse, The Lord has not chosen any of these. Samuel said to Jesse, Is that all of the young men? Jesse said, There still is the youngest, but he is tending the sheep. Samuel said to Jesse, Send for him, for we cannot sit down to eat until he comes. He sent for him and brought him in. David had red hair and striking eyes, and was good-looking. The Lord said, Get up. Anoint him, because this is the one. So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. The Spirit of the Lord rushed on David with power from that day forward. After that Samuel set out and returned to Ramah.